Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey there, AfterBuzzers. Welcome back to AfterBuzz TV's Halt and Catch Fire After Show. We're going to be breaking down Season 2, Episode 7, Working for the Clampdown.
Big episode today.
Can you not interrupt my flow,
I'm sorry,
Dave?
you're right. I was so excited about our guest that I wanted to interrupt you. I thought,
terrible, man.
Right, you're right.
Okay, my name is Isaac Johnson. You can follow me on Twitter at Isaac Johnson. And my co-host...
Yes, let me speak now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
I'll let you speak and not interrupt
Thank you. Okay, Dave Abbott here. Big day today. Normally I would plug my Twitter at this point, but my Instagram just broke 1,000 followers, so I just want to keep that going.
So follow
Dave Abbott,
yes.
DAVEABED. Let's get to 2,000 within a manageable time period.
Wow, Dave, this show is only 50 minutes.
Okay.
We also have some really special guests with us today.
Special guests.
They're not huge. They're appropriately sized.
I mean, they're very fit.
Yeah,
but,
they look very fit to me. We
Yep.
got Kevin Ross over here.
Hey, how's it going?
And John Vitale.
How you doing?
Did I say it correctly?
Vitale,
Okay,
yes.
Thank you
Great.
so much. Oh, well, now it's going to be a good show.
Yes.
These gentlemen were both editors for this episode of Halt and Catch Fire, which I show that you guys are all fans of. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be breaking it down with us. We're excited to have you guys.
Break it down. Insights. Intellect. Oh, yeah. We watched the show together earlier, and there was a lot of whispering between these two the entire time. So the biggest question is just tell us all your whispers, and then we'll be done with the show.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's about the show.
Okay.
So let's ask Dave, because you guys know this episode a lot better than we do. Dave,
Yes.
what did you think of the episode?
Definitely each episode I'm getting more and more into the characters for sure. I did not see the first season, so I was brand new to this year, and I get a lot of flack from that from our fans. But so I was like a little slow to kind of catch up to the characters and the vibe of the show. But each episode I'm becoming more of a fan of, and this one. I was excited to watch it, for one, to see what was going to happen.
For once,
and I
yeah,
thought,
good.
one.
Oh,
Not
okay,
for once.
sorry.
Not for once.
For once, you're excited.
For one. For two, I thought there was a lot of payoffs. I thought Joe was really great in this episode. I thought Cameron brought me on an emotional journey on this episode, because I thought, here she goes again, being too emotional and like annoying me, and then she made the good decision after Tom gave him his metaphorical speech, but then at the end she gave that. It's interesting. I was noticing when we were just watching it, the music they put behind her in that moment was like kind of like triumphant and cheery. But I feel like if they would have just put music that was more like down and evil, that final moment could have seemed kind of evil from her spot.
Could have, Dave.
But it didn't.
Who knows?
What was your feelings?
My feelings were that this was a great emotional episode. I was really into a lot of the, like you said, payoffs and just where the characters went. Specifically Joe, I was really happy about that.
Yes.
You guys edited this episode, and you guys see it in a much longer format than we do. So how did you feel about seeing your baby out there in the world?
Overall, pretty pleased.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nice cohesive script, and don't really miss the scenes that we know are there.
Sure.
But, and that, of course, is because the episode is much longer when we first cut it.
Of course.
And this one especially, and we brought it down to time, but who knows, maybe they'll show up on deleted scenes on the DVD someday.
That was cool. How do you feel about it, John?
I'm sure though. I feel the same way. I mean, there's really good moments for all the characters.
Absolutely.
In this episode, and you get to see that roller coaster a little bit with Cameron, and you get the Big Joe story that you every few episodes will get in his backstory, which is really good to see for him for character.
Cool.
So.
Yeah.
And I was glad to see that Gordon finally told Donna what was going on with him.
And that's exactly where I was going. That's where, I wanted to talk about that, because Gordon, we had him last episode. We had him cheating on his wife. Yeah. Something I
we were all
rebelled
disappointed
against.
in. Yes. Yeah. You're married, so you have to be against it. Yes.
Yes.
I also should be. I was against it before I was married.
Okay, good. Right, good.
Pre and post.
You're a moral man.
Aren't we all married here?
I am a single man, so
yeah.
I can be for it, but I'm not. I could be, but I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, so Gordon tells Donna a really great... Well, he tells Donna about what's going on with his brain. And you see a lot more effects of that in this episode, too. He does not tell her about the cheating. I wonder when that's going to come out.
If
it's going to come out, yeah.
I don't know.
Right. We don't know, and we're not going to ask.
If only we knew.
If only we knew.
Yeah.
You know, may I? Do you have some finishing? I was going to say, because we were asking how many. We obviously want to know some behind the scenes thing, and maybe the best way is per character. So for Gordon, what is your favorite thing about cutting Gordon from an acting standpoint? What do you feel that he gives you as an actor that kind of excites you and allows you to edit in the best way possible?
I'd say specifically about all the characters in this show, they're all very good. The script is good, and I think when you start with good words, actors can take that to a bunch of different places. Sure. But Gordon specifically is he's very into the character. He really breaks it down. He gives you the material you need to put the scene together.
Scoot's a very solid actor. I mean,
I'm a big fan.
And when you put him and Kerry Bishé together, they're dynamite really together. Yeah. They jump off the screen. And but all the main characters in this are amazing, and it's a pleasure to cut. Sometimes I've worked on shows in the past where it's a tough
heavy lifting.
Heavy lifting to get a scene to work.
Right.
Okay, well let's go back to
right.
But this one really does cut well, and you have a lot of choices, which is really nice in the cutting room.
I once heard Cate Blanchett say that she, I think it was her, that she'll in different scenes give one different eye look or something in a scene to give editors choice to say you could either take the scene this way or you could take it this way. Are those same type of things happening with these actors?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of that. I mean, the quiet moments. A lot of times people don't understand that editing, we get to decide how long we hold on that quiet moment, or if we're going to cut away to a little moment. Like I was telling John in our whispering session, that in the scene where where Sarah and Joe meet Jacob at the restaurant, there's a little look that Jacob and Joe share. Well, that really wasn't there, but I kind of built that because I had a moment where Lee looked over, and I just cut that with Jacob's, James Cromwell, and it played really nicely. But it really wasn't. It wasn't something they did every take. It was something I happened to find. But I thought it played well. So
very cool.
Our job's about building those moments and help in elevating every moment that we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes you have to manufacture those, but it's there.
Yeah, well, it's a part that people don't know how much storytelling comes from the editing as well. With the performances, the script, the camera shots, what am I trying to say? The photography, all of that stuff really adds to it, and so you don't really realize until you actually get to hear those inside scoops. I was really excited, well, not just excited, but to hear Gordon finally tell his wife. As a married man myself, I'm like, dude, how can you keep this big of a secret from your wife? Yep. I know that it's scary for him. I mean, no one wants to hear this bad news, but good for him to finally come out. I mean, the first person he told was his brother. Okay, I can accept that.
Horribly.
The next person is his brother's old girlfriend. Not great after you've slept with her.
Right.
But in defense of Gordon, he was trying to tell Donna in that earlier episode.
That's what I argued last week.
I have to say, because I watched that episode. It wasn't one that I edited, but when I see it, I'm like, okay. He was really putting in the effort, but, he didn't know how to approach her, and she was too busy, preoccupied.
Yeah, he did try. One, and if he tells her too soon, that kind of spoils the story. But I'm like, real life, I'm like, be a little more insistent with telling her this important information. I like seeing him also really find some more purpose in what exactly he's going to do now that he's got all this money, that he's going to start Clark Computers, or what was it? Is that right?
Clark Computers.
Clark Computers, which you guys said is basically he's starting Dell, which is very similar to the Dell story, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think we actually had a reference like that in an earlier scene that was cut out.
Okay.
Oh,
okay. That they actually referenced that young guy at college who just made $2 million in his dorm room or something.
Right.
But that scene didn't make the final cut.
Yeah.
But that's really what it's referencing.
It's really fun to get all those references to things that we know about. It's like last season when the Apple, I guess, was it the Mac back then?
Yeah.
When that comes out and everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's in color. And we're looking at these graphics now going oh, okay, that's pretty great. But it's cool to see like where it came from. I also like him bringing back all the guys from, or I guess most of the guys from Cardiff Electric that he worked for. And it seems like they all dropped what they were doing to come and work with him.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
And it was nice because in the first episode this season, they're the ones who were at the bar who
Right.
were all, pissed off that.
Yeah, we got to go find new jobs.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
I mean, we have job leave,
Yeah.
but we're very upset about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
For the Gordon storyline,
Just working with his buddies again.
yeah, I mean, it felt good to see Gordon kind of go. It's funny that they put him back to work at the same time where it seems like his illness is getting worse.
Right.
And but what's interesting is we've had the whole first 6 episodes where you just saw hints of the brain
Right.
function deteriorating, but now that we know it. This is an interesting editing question, but it seems like it's getting worse every day. I mean, it seems like it's greatly affecting all of his work. I mean, he had the Joe slip.
Yeah.
Now I'm confused about the Joe slip. Now, if he would have said that, what was the backlash there? Those guys just can't believe that he's working with Joe, or should he not even say that he's working with Joe?
I don't think they would want to hear that he was working with Joe, given how things went down before.
Yeah, I took it as, Gordon just had one of those mental slips, and now
okay.
they were just kind of questioning, like they're not in on it. They don't know
Right.
what's the problem with the brain damage.
Right.
I mean, even though Donna mentions in the kitchen, just watch out in case something
Right.
strange.
Yeah.
It's good for her to say.
And there were some scenes that were in the beginning of the episode that didn't make the final cut, where you see Donna, has some scenes where some things happen. She's worried about him.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how many, maybe a couple scenes.
Just a couple
Just
at the
2
beginning.
scenes. Some things happen, but you might see that DVD.
So is it purposely ambiguous on where he really is with this illness? Are we kind of not supposed to know if it's as serious as she feels it is?
I think that was just one mental slip.
No,
And then
Yeah.
we see what the extent is when he goes, what were you talking about?
Right.
About Joe? He doesn't even realize he did it.
yes.
Yeah.
But then there was that scene where you had said where he is excited about the first sale, where you said the music is in that moment to make us think that maybe he's having another mental. So it does seem like the show's maybe pushing it a little bit that it could be going that's but for the audience
It's
to
bait and
decide.
switch type of things at
Okay.
that time. You
Yeah.
want to make the audience wonder, oh no, is he just staring off into space?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Donna's going to find him where he can't speak anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I know. That first mental slip was kind of like, oh man, this
Yeah.
is how it's gonna start.
Kind of scary. You think, well, if they do another season, like where does it? How fast can he slip?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta imagine it's gonna be a little bit gradual because we don't want to like,
That's what I figured too.
comatose, like in season 3 where he's just like
He's got
a
7
vegetable.
lines next year. Yeah.
Yeah, we got him staring at that computer, seeing the giant, and then that's when the slip comes there, and the guys
Yeah.
are like, Joe, like he's been gone for 2 years at this point, so
Yeah.
well, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Really cool. I like seeing Donna go to her mom. to
That
have
mom is a real
Yeah, no, she's never liked
right?
it. She's never liked it. Well, I told you that they wanted her to marry someone else before.
I
Right.
think it was Hunt from
Yeah,
season
Hunt.
1.
Right,
so-
yeah. Which rhymes with another word. That
Right.
kind of was like. But, seeing her really kind of plant that seed and like, oh, what's going to happen when he's picking the girls up from school and all this kind of stuff was like, I think that maybe put that idea more into Donna's mind. So that's why she's like, well, maybe we should really keep an eye on him because he might not be doing so well.
Yeah, and it's like you watch a scene like that and you think, oh, like that, how could anybody be like that and act like that? But I have met mothers in the world that do have that kind of relationship with their daughter, and I see it. I have a very loving mom who will be listening to this, and hi, Mom. Very loving, not at all like the woman on TV, but I have met moms like
It's a great
that.
recovery there.
Yes, thank you. But I
know
have
what you're saying, Mrs.
Mrs. Abed, you're out there.
Yeah.
Love you. But yeah, but obviously a great actress, right? Because we believe her and we hate her.
Yes.
Annette O'Toole's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
She's great.
She's great. I mean, she was on the whole run of
Excellent.
Smallville, which I was a big fan of.
Mm-hmm.
I'll admit too, and then also in Superman 3. Yeah, that's the other movie. But I like her planning that idea into Donna's mind.
To
and
divorce.
Well, just
Is that what you think that was
Well,
the
I don't
idea?
think it was necessarily the divorce,
What
but
was it then?
I just see it being like, well, look, there's no sympathy for him, which you would think
Right.
that your mother-in-law, no matter what kind of guy you are, especially if you've got a lot of money, that she would be a little more like in your
Right.
corner.
And I
No.
doubt she's ever shared with Donna that she got the money back
I don't
from
think Donna knows
Gordon.
that at
I don't
this
think
point,
she
yeah.
knows that either.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
which is
point.
interesting that she wouldn't tell her that, but she still just got zero sympathy for the guy.
I was surprised that Donna didn't hit back a little harder. Like the woman's saying, "What if she's in a wheelchair? Are you going to leave him then?" It's like, come on.
Yeah, she did stand up for him, which I really liked. But then I thought, how much would she stand up for him if she knew about this?
The cheating.
About Julie, like.
Right, but then the abortion, and then they have equal dueling.
Well, and that's the thing. She's got secrets herself, but at the same time, I guess they're both terrible things.
Yeah, I think that's great writing and great storytelling, though, because then we're forced to think, both of these have demons in their closets.
Yeah.
Which one is worse, people can argue about, but they equally have something, so it allows us to care and, not hate, but, mistrust them a little bit.
One, I like that little moment when he's coming to the kitchen and she's like, "Oh, I know where you went to visit your brother." Like, what? Why did you hard swallow there?
Yeah.
Well, this episode was written by the creators of the show.
Okay.
Chris Cantwell and Chris Rogers, and they just knock it out of the park.
They really do.
Yeah.
They supervise all the scripts, but this one was theirs, so it's a great job.
So you were saying earlier, like, you guys get a certain amount of footage. How much footage do you get for an episode? Like raw, I guess, and then you have to edit it down to what time?
Well, they shoot for 8 days, and it can vary depending on the director and how many cameras they're shooting at once. Usually, it's 2 cameras, possibly 1. I don't know. We get like
sometimes let's say the high end be 3 hours a day.
Oh wow.
Low end be maybe 45 to an hour, but sometimes you see right about in the middle, 2 hours.
Yeah, and we have to have this down to what, 43?
This one's 43, yeah.
43.
40, I believe.
So do you see all that footage, or do you have the assistants kind of get out the crap?
Oh, no, we get it all.
You see it. You specifically see it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we see all the takes that the directors decided that they circle. So we can look at.
Okay.
And how many cuts do you end up doing before you have final?
Well, we have our editor's cut that is due like 3 or 4 days after production's done.
Okay.
And that's when we try to get it in as nice a shape as we possibly can, but have everything in, all the dialogue. And on this episode, I think our first cut was like 54 minutes, 56 minutes.
56.
56.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were like 13 minutes over. So that's a lot of extra material.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of dialogue that you can trim out of the middle of the scenes you may not notice, or some camera moves, things like that. But then you have to make the hard decisions and bring it down to time and pull scenes out, which is what we had to do this episode.
Okay.
But then after our editor's cut, we have 4 days with the director. And so they sit in the editing room with us for 4 days, and they turn over the director's cut. After that, it goes to the producers. They have 2 or 3 days, and then we turn it to the studio. And the studio gives their notes, then the network. But here it's studio network are the same.
Right.
So it's a couple of weeks we have to finish.
It's about a month overall from the beginning of shooting.
Okay.
It's a lot. I mean, and both of us came from the feature world where we had a lot more time to finish
Of course,
that.
yeah.
And television, there's some editors from feature world that have no idea what television editing's like. They think, oh, it's so easy. You just cut it together. It's really quick. But it's so filmic now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, specifically the show has got a very film feel to it.
It's like every week we're doing a mini movie.
Yeah, absolutely. No, so if you guys are editing together, who gets to call the shots? Is there like some sort of coin flip or
I
something?
don't know how we broke it up on
Rock,
this one.
paper, scissors.
We've known each other so long on this one, and we've worked together on other shows together.
Right.
What we did was we just said, hey, I'll take this scene, you take that scene.
Cool.
But because we were co-editing it, John got an act. He had a specific act. I had a specific act.
Yeah,
Trying to-
jumped around.
Trying to keep them together.
Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And an act would be between commercial breaks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about Cameron. Who there was a line which I wrote it down here, is that basically she is pure emotion.
She's from the hip. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, from the heart or wherever these things are coming from, there's no moment where she thinks about how does this affect someone else.
Yeah.
It's just pretty much, I'm pissed about
No,
this
she did
right
this
now.
episode with Tom.
She got
Yes,
there.
She got there.
But
Finally.
her instinct is to, which is what we've talked all season about, how we're just like, man, like, can she just get out of her own way?
It's a maturity thing, probably.
Yeah, she's young. And we're like, okay, so Joe comes in with a deal, which, Joe seemed to really enjoy that, which of course he would. But he's offering them what seems like a very fair deal, and of course we understand why she's not really going to trust him because of everything from last season. But these moments, or the moment when she, I almost knocked over my water, sorry. And killed your phone. There, sorry.
Great episode.
But the moment where, Donna and Bosworth kind of look at each other like, okay, like maybe we should actually take this deal. Let's think about it for a minute. and then she goes out there and rallies all the troops to, you know, just basically champion it. I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and a broad question is, and we'll drill down more specifically, when you watch Cameron and her character choices, I mean, I don't know if you guys get as frustrated with her character as we did at some point. You're thinking, why can't you just settle down every once in a while? Does she ever make choices that are a little maybe less... I mean, obviously it's written, the words are there, but, you know, obviously she takes it to a different level with her emotions. Does she give much variety there, or is she specific and she's chosen the path of this character?
I mean, from the beginning of the series, you can see she's very volatile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe doesn't think things through, like you said.
No.
And
But the actor herself, she gives us
yeah,
material to work with.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would imagine so. She's like just almost like pure id or something.
Yeah.
Mackenzie does a great job. I mean,
Yeah.
she wasn't known before this, I don't believe. And
Yeah. No, I didn't know her before this. She did a movie last year with Daniel Radcliffe.
she
What
has
else?
The Martian coming up. I saw her in the
Yeah.
trailer for
Oh,
that.
cool.
So I was like, oh, hey, look, it's Cameron. Cameron's
Yeah,
working at
yeah.
NASA now. All right, cool.
There's a
Yeah.
NASA look to her.
Well, she could work at NASA. She's
Yeah.
a smart girl.
I thought that scene when she was with Tom and she was doing that realizing about that she was gonna call Joe. I thought that was some really solid like acting there. Like, you know, you have to have thoughts in those moments for that kind of silent acting to read, and I thought that came across really well. Do you guys agree? Good scene on her part there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's listening to Tom, you know, tell her why he didn't have a vote,
Right.
and I think she really takes that in, and then obviously that changes later in the episode. But you know, it's good to see her take that in and understand it's one of those moments where she is, you know, kind of growing as a character and listening.
great to see.
And listening.
And
to take
these
that.
are all natural actors. I mean, they
Yeah.
actually react to what they're hearing.
Yeah.
You have a lot, especially new actors and people that haven't done a lot of shows. Sometimes we get a guest star on a show that you just see them like waiting for their next line, and they're not really giving you anything. And it plays for the editors. It's all in the reaction. Like
Yeah.
we can really build the scene that way. So, like I said before, this is just quality, you know, troupe of actors that we get to work with and cut here.
That's true. You know, if I may follow, because I had that question about the guest stars because of Tom's mom, and I know we'll probably get to Tom. But obviously, guest star to start the show, and so the broader question: when you get some guest stars in, do you find does it vary from like, oh, this guest star is kind of tough to edit, this one's very strong?
We want specific names.
Yes. And then how do we get those roles instead? Right.
Well,
We probably auditioned.
Right, that's right.
yeah, we always find out who the guest star is after they've been cast,
Right,
and
obviously,
each director
yes.
gets to help choose their own guest stars.
Yeah.
But so far, I've been pretty happy. I can't think of anybody that I mean, like in the previous episode I cut, it was when Boz goes to the door of the kid
Yep.
who's quit, and I love that mom and that kid. I just they were
great.
awesome. And then it was funny then because I was like, oh, she's great. You should bring her back. And they went, oh, well, she's coming back. She's going to go on a date with Boz. You
Oh,
know, and they were like,
nice.
and then that's when she was in. I think it was last week. She was on a date with Boz. That was the mom from.
Oh, that was the mom?
He was on it,
Oh, we didn't
yeah.
put that together.
Did
Okay.
not put that together at all.
Yeah,
Cool.
that was her. I wasn't giving away a secret.
No,
That
no.
was-
Yeah.
that
At first I
actually
thought,
happened,
hit
so.
the edit button, but
Yeah.
We're just going to start the show over.
right, yes.
Okay, restart.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. Well, I like Boz too, being the one to tell, to tell Joe, like, it's not my ear that you really want there. Tom is the one who's really going to reach her, which was to me great growth for this character, who, like we said, is just pure emotion, and you know, to see her really take that in, it was to me the first, well, maybe not the first, but one of the bigger moments where she finally takes it in that like, oh, other people work here too, which was really nice to see. Which, of course, then it flips right back around to the end. Which, I mean, obviously she took Joe's advice there, and she was probably pretty shocked by all of what he had to say and that story, how he can really relate to Lev. Because I almost forgot that he had dated a man before, and like, oh yeah, well he's going to directly relate to this story. But to see him, you know, open up to her and then tell her not to sell it, and then she comes back in, this company's mine. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was confused now. If Donna and Donna and Cameron are in this together, but if Cameron has 95%,
90%,
then so that kind of they're not. It's barely sharing at all.
yeah. Yeah,
right?
I don't know how much Donna got out of the deal.
Yeah, we don't know specifically. I mean, like, I like that even last season and this season, like, no one's a boss here. No one has titles. We all just build this thing together, except for I own 90% of it.
Yeah, and every episode is very clear that everybody doesn't have a voice. Like, it's very clear she is the voice.
I think maybe that's one of those things where her character is kind of deluding herself, that she's really the boss. Maybe she just doesn't want to be.
Well, that's what I like about the scene where Bodhi confronts her about, hey, I didn't know you had 90% of the company.
Yeah.
I mean, that actor, Joshua Hoover.
Josh Hoover, yeah.
He was really great in that scene.
Yep.
And he's really done some solid work. And that scene was fun to cut because you got to see, and I think I told you guys beforehand that the scene actually went much longer when we first cut it, and we got to see all the coders of Mutiny had a chance to raise their hand or say yes or no, and it was a much longer scene. And I'm sure that when they watched the episode, everyone's like, "Wait a minute, my part got cut out. What happened?"
Well, he still got paid.
Yeah, and I hate that when it happens, but it was a long episode, so you had to trim somewhere. But that whole confrontation was great.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's and this is like a sort of tangential reference, but like I know that like people say like the first cut of Star Wars was like terrible, and then like an editor came in to kind of save it. And one of the notes was that the actors' performances are driving the pace of it, rather than the cuts sort of creating excitement in the scene. Is there something for when you're seeing like a great actor's performance, but you have to cut it? Like, what are you looking for to continue to make it exciting?
A lot of times it's just basic. Take the air out.
Okay.
I mean, between the pauses, and sometimes scenes can be dragged down by. I mean, you like to give those pregnant pauses, and you keep them if you can. But if it's slowing the pace, you just trim them up, and you still get the looks. You just cut it down by half the time.
Sure. Yeah. And with the I was
just gonna say, when you're pulling the words out, script and things like that, you have to make sure that it feels like it hasn't been taken out and that the scene was written the way you're watching it.
Sure,
that's a good point.
And so building in those pauses, like Kevin says, is the art of it, is trying to get so people when they're watching, it's like, oh, this looks exactly the way it should be.
Yeah.
So, and that's the fun part of it.
Yeah, it can't look built.
Yeah.
And with the coders, that was one of my questions, because it does seem in this show that there's like a lack of any kind of much development. There's been a little bit development with each coder, but I still don't feel I know them that well. Now,
but do you really need to?
But you said you cut them out, and so I'm wondering with each episode, is there maybe a little bit more with the coders that seem to always end up on the floor, or is that just purposely?
No, this is the main one.
Okay.
That I would say, and this was just letting the coders who hadn't had a line before, or just even raise their hand, background.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And unfortunately, that happened. But you are getting development with Lev.
Right. Yes.
And the fact that
very
Lev
much
gets
in this episode.
beat up, and we have Yo-Yo, who he's
Did we see
gone.
Yo-Yo this episode? I don't remember seeing.
He was in the background of the waiting room.
Oh, right.
When they rush, when Donna
comes
in.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So he's still in the mix. He's there in the background, even though he's gone. And then the other ones that you have are Carl, the one who was trying to piece together the term sheet. Bodhi, of course.
Yeah.
Wonder Boy.
Yep.
Who's always a little timid. But I mean, they have their moments, but they're not really going to flesh out their backstories much.
Right.
So.
Okay. Yeah, just wondering.
I think their purpose is to establish that world where they work, the kind of people that are there. I mean, obviously, it seems like Bodhi is getting the most, and Lev too, which is carryover from last season, which I really liked. I mean, I don't like seeing him beat up or anything like that. That was awful.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh man, because I'd been wondering so much about him talking online with this guy, and that being that's a thing from real life, that people could pretend to be someone else. There was no way to really track that. I mean, they're using like a dummy, I guess, IP, or would it have been an IP back then? Probably been something else, I guess.
I think it was probably easier back then.
Goes beyond our technical.
Well, that's me.
We just edited it out.
That's why we get yelled at by our fans. I wish you guys knew more stuff. Well, we're just people hosting the show.
We're just actors who watch a show.
We watch a show and talk good talk.
But having that tie into just that he was been fooled this whole time, and I was kind of excited for him. He's gonna go meet somebody, and I like that the show's not making a big deal about him being gay and all that kind of stuff, and then but that's the times we live in.
But those
are the times that they live in.
But wasn't that a great performance by Toby? when he was like, yeah, I got
Oh,
a cousin, or you
Yeah,
know what I mean? I just loved his
yeah.
little reaction to
Yeah,
that
yeah.
last.
I mean, that's how someone of that generation would
Yeah,
have reacted
exactly.
to it. You know,
I thought
and the
he
rest
played
of them
that
are
really
fine
well.
with it. You know.
Yeah, I since I didn't see the first season, I didn't realize that Joe had because I was wondering if they built this into the show to kind of make a statement about, like either about the time that they lived in or even about the time that we still live in, or do you think the writers are saying something there with that?
Well, I think it was a continuation of last season.
Just a continuation, yeah. Okay.
To bring it back into the forefront.
Because it's a subtle theme that's kind of throughout the show.
Because we had a whole episode last season where his ex-lover comes to help design the giant.
Okay.
The body of it.
Yeah.
And his name was Simon, I believe.
Yeah.
And then you find out Simon has AIDS and is going to, it's like
Right.
a goodbye, a sad.
Okay. So it's, just kind of bring
Revelation.
it back. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, really cool. Well, let's take one quick little pause to talk about iTunes.
Sure.
Folks, if you're listening to this show on iTunes,
You're missing out on our faces.
You are
first of
missing
all.
out on our
Yes.
faces. But thank you so much for listening, watching, streaming, downloading, all of these things that you're doing. We really appreciate if you'd head over to iTunes and write us a rating and review on the show. 5 stars if you really like us. If you don't like us, I'm not really sure how you got to episode 7. You probably should have dropped off a few episodes ago. But if you do,
Don't drop off.
yeah, you can leave us a rating and review
Right.
also. It really helps out the network. AfterBuzz has over 100 hours of content every week for TV. If you're watching TV or like talking about TV, this is the network for it. So please head over there and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's get back into Joe.
Joe.
We got Joe meeting with Jacob there.
Love this. We both love this episode for Joe.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
every episode, I feel like I could use more Joe, and I feel like we got a good amount of him in this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Solid eyebrow raising in this one on his part.
There's a Twitter account that was started
saw
called
that.
Admiral Eyebrows,
Yeah.
which is really funny. And I think they're following me, so
Yeah.
thanks for that. But I like him really going to bat for mutiny and why we need to acquire them and all this stuff. And he really sells Jacob on it. So we're like, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
He's really stumping for them. This is something he believes in. Nothing bad can happen here.
But I think his performance is great because 4 episodes ago I predicted maybe there's going to be a huge switch and he has been evil the entire season. And
No, I think he's authentic.
But I think he is too. But he plays this great subtlety where you still see him and you're like, what is going on in your head? Like, is this all for them, or is this a little for you, or is there a game here? We're learning that there isn't, but I think he always leaves that little door open that there might be. Do you guys agree with that?
Insightful.
Yeah, that's why I'm here, guys. That's why I made the no bucks.
Hadn't thought about that.
Well, that's why I'm here, to make people think.
I feel like sarcasm is at play in the room right now.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I like him going to Jacob for that. I think that's really cool. It's something real. He spent all last season building something pretend or just manipulating people, and now this is something real, and you can really get the passion behind why he's invested in this.
He's still meddling in other people's work,
He is
but
still, yeah.
he does seem to have an honest purpose to it. It's not like he's trying to pull the wool over Cameron's eyes.
Yeah,
or
which
anything.
it makes sense why no one trusts. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I
go
was
ahead.
just to say, but if you follow this episode throughout, he's still Joe manipulating and doing what he needs to
Yeah.
do to get to where he needs to get, or get the situation where he's at,
Yes,
and
especially when Tom comes to visit him in his office down there
After
with the
he
machine.
visited
And
Tom's
Bob.
Yeah,
room.
and I love it because that scene, it's Joe playing with someone and
Yeah.
toying with them, and I have to say, for all the Lee Pace fans that you see on Twitter all the time, that scene for me is like, that's the best looking Lee Pace scene in the show. It's like, he's good looking in that one. I mean, he's
Charismatic.
really
Yeah.
charismatic, and there's not a lot of screen grabs you could get there. That,
Right.
They
So
can
go
make
over and
something
grab
up.
that screen.
Yeah, someone should do that scene.
I noticed in that scene there was a lot of, this is a technical question from a cameraman angle, but DP, if you will. But
Director
there was a lot of
photography
subtle,
for this
the camera was just kind of like slightly moving back and forth a lot of times when it was over the shoulder on Joe. And I'm just wondering why, why, if, and I liked it, I didn't do anything bad, but I'm wondering these slight movements, and I see that a lot in television, is this just a movement to get away from still shots, or what's the idea?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of times they're just trying something new, and in a couple of those cases, if the and we get the daily sometime and go, why are they doing that? Like, okay,
Right.
we'll do it.
Yeah.
We'll make it work.
Yeah.
And then if we have a shot that's static and you're mixed up with all these moving things, you have to put a fake move on it to make it seem
Interesting.
like
Okay.
So how do you do that?
it's an easy thing to do in the
Oh, okay.
Abbott.
Yeah.
It's
So it's 7 buttons.
Yeah,
and
sometimes
either it's moving.
there's an uneasiness too when you're in a scene like that where you're moving slowly back and forth because it's not static, and it just creates an extra feel to the music and the performances, and maybe that's why the DPs do it. But I always feel when I see scenes like that you're slowly floating and you're watching people, and it just gives it a little bit of an uneasiness to it.
I would agree. Yeah.
But also on this season, we've noticed a lot. The DP has really gone out of his way to try to highlight scenes and make you feel uneasy as a viewer. If you notice a lot of the shots, like if you go back and watch that scene with the mother, the way that the scene is weighted, the actors are like on the far right side of frame looking off to the right, and so you have all this open space on the side, and it's a very it's different than what you normally see in other shows, and it gives more weight to it, I think, and it makes it stand out more. But it also creates this little uneasiness that when you're watching the scene, it helps drive that scene, and it's a nice quality that's subtle, but it works.
Yeah.
In that scene with the kitchen, I was thinking that there's something else going on here with Tom and his mom, and why is she here and all this stuff. But later you end up figuring out that she's been fired from her job, and it seems like Tom is, I guess, her main caregiver. I guess is what's going on there, which is possibly why he took the job at the grocery store, because he's certainly not getting paid at Mutiny.
Right.
So that was cool, and it's good to know that even some of that stuff where you're feeling uneasy, it's purposeful in telling that part of the story. I like Sarah kind of calling Joe out on the thing that you're talking about, John, of that he's still working for someone else's company and kind of meddling and really trying to get him to be even, I guess, more authentic. I think he's trying his hardest. Yeah. And I'd like her calling him out on that. That dinner conversation, man, that was pretty tense, having Jacob and Joe kind of go toe to toe there, and her being like, "Hey, can I say something, guys? I'm also at this dinner."
Yeah.
I thought that was a great scene because, it's written as a fight scene, or those brief moments between Jacob and Joe are fighting. But, both actors played it so brilliantly. And, Jacob's got his power, laughing, are you questioning me right now? And, and then Joe's got his, power, eyebrow stance, yeah, I got something to say here. It's a fight scene that could have just been, you get amateur actors in those, and those are just two people yelling at each other. But it's just, the whole thing felt like it's just a big power play between these three people.
Yeah, it was really interesting to have Jacob being like, give him another chance, don't quit on this yet, which was a really nice way to get a lot of her background without it feeling like the super kind of clunky, she used to be married and she gave up on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is the episode where you see that Jacob is completely bought into everything that Joe.
Yeah.
Telling him he's brilliant in that opening scene when it's almost like Joe's got his father figure that's finally giving him approval that he didn't have in season 1. So
Yeah, which he desperately wants.
Because we questioned that as well. We were like, what's Jacob's motives? Is he trying to do something? But everyone turned out to be good motives, except for Donna and Gordon, who are lying to each other all the time.
Except for that.
Right.
But really interesting to have, so after Jacob kind of goes to bat for Joe at the dinner, then have Joe, instead of go you should listen to your dad or something like that, he stands up for her, which... I gotta say, is in real life, that's the move that you
That's
make.
the man move. He is getting laid later.
Yeah, you better back up your woman in that scenario. If you side with the father, it's not gonna happen.
Well, that should tell the viewer that Joe's,
authentic.
He's authentic in his motives.
That was a big moment for me for that.
FYI, we're getting the 5-minute sign, so we better start wrapping it up a little bit here.
I am well aware of the time of this show.
Okay, good.
Never questioned my.
I had questioned it one time, and it was a huge mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm going to show my Mutiny shirt.
There it is. Look at that.
He's rocking some Mutiny over here.
That was created by our producer of Post, God of Halt and Catch Fire, Nathaniel Smith.
Awesome.
So he gave those to everyone in Post.
Shout out to him.
Yeah,
it's really great.
Very authentic.
And we're going to auction that shirt. No, we're not.
No, we're not.
We're not going to do
We're auctioning a dinner with both of these gentlemen as well. Right.
With their wives.
Yes,
of course.
Asteria Mozza.
Well, let's talk about Bosworth just a little bit, because he goes to meet with Joe kind of behind their back, after they all rip up the contract, and then later they're putting it together like, wait a minute, what does this thing say? But we have him go to meet with Joe behind his back, which I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
But it turns out he wasn't, because he went and told
he did.
Cameron
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And he tells Joe that everything you say here goes back to
Right.
Cameron.
Yeah, which is great. Which is really great.
I feel like Boz has had one of the best, like, subtle... I was thinking back to the first episode we saw Boz, he's having coitus with his ex-wife in the hotel room, and he's talking to his son in the car, and you're thinking, man, where's this storyline going to go with this guy? And I feel like it's just been, like, each episode, he's a little more relevant, and he's just subtly kind of always there. And he just becomes one of those characters that you're, like, always feel like, oh, well, at least he's there, you know?
He's kind of the dad there.
He's the dad, yeah.
They need a dad.
Yeah. Great acting on his part as well.
Yeah, I also like that honesty of him being like, well, look, they gave you a job. He's like, well, they gave me the job because I'm the next count. I'm like,
no, it's from you and McDonald's.
Although, if you remember, Cameron was setting up Mutiny to give Boz some shares in the company in season 1. She brought the lawyer over to do that.
Yeah, no, their relationship is great. I think that there's a lot of honesty and a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah.
Gosh, what else do we have here? So, actually, let's ask you guys. You guys have storied careers. We're both jealous. We'd like to be working as much as you are. What else are you guys working on right now?
We're both working on a show for A&E called Unforgettable.
Okay.
It was on CBS 2 seasons ago. A&E is now airing that. We don't know when it's going to air, but we're working on 13 episodes right now.
John's been on it. This is his 4th season and my 3rd season.
Oh, wow.
So,
And same with that show, every 3 episodes? Is that standard in television?
Yeah.
Okay.
as far as Halt and Catch Fire, my next episode is the finale, episode 10.
Awesome.
Next week's, I haven't seen the next 2 episodes coming up. I've seen bits and pieces, but I've never seen the whole episode.
Oh, cool.
And next week is edited by Robert Kamatsu, who's a great editor, who's right now doing X-Files.
Oh,
That
that's
kid's
series.
coming back, right?
Yeah, he's doing that. And then episode 9 is Chris McCaleb, who is now doing Fear of the Walking Dead. He's
Fear the Walking
cutting
Dead,
that. They moved right on to prestigious shows and things. So it's pretty awesome. And then 10 will be the wrap-up, and that's mine. So
There it is. And then, so if this gets picked up for another season, will you be coming back for that?
I hope so.
That's cool. Nice.
You just wait to be asked.
Yeah, you just wait to be asked. Isn't
Right.
the city funny? It's like, oh, I might not have a job, but
I hope so. But,
I hope not. Yeah. Awesome.
Would you guys hear about the show being picked up much sooner than we would, or would it be
a couple of weeks.
couple?
I mean, we'd heard rumors last season, but we were kind of like waiting because, you
never
didn't know
know.
what to believe.
It just
Yeah.
depends. Sometimes someone will get it. It's in the trades, and then that's how we hear, or we hear a week before.
Yeah.
Do they build a storyline around maybe not getting picked? Like, do they kind of end each season with this could be a period?
I think they have an idea of where they'd go season 3, based on the rest of this season.
Okay.
Well, I was on Californication for 6 seasons.
Yeah.
And for the last 3, they kept thinking this was going to be the last one. And so the last episode would always be a big wrap up, finish off the season,
Yeah.
the show.
Right.
And then they'd say, okay, we're going to pick it up again. And they'd rewrite the last one so it was a finale. But it would finalize that arc for that season. But then there was still a leeway to where you're going to go next season.
So they do have that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But they always
interesting.
play it that way.
Right. Cool.
So from working in film, if you guys have both worked in film before you worked in TV, are there any like great stories you have for, I don't know, like insight from to actors that like you think anybody would be curious about, like Jim Carrey or?
Kevin's got great stories.
Yeah.
Which ones? No. I will say that it's funny that Toby Huss, that is Boz,
Yeah.
I was an assistant editor on a Fox show in '95 called Down Periscope.
Oh, yes. We referenced that.
Oh, you have? Okay, sorry. Because I was watching it going, wait a minute, that's Toby.
Yeah.
Toby is that goofy comedic electrician guy
Yeah,
on
yeah.
here.
The Wiz on Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked on movies with Robin Williams when I was first starting out. Like my first union film was Mrs. Doubtfire, and I have to say one of the nicest guys I've ever worked with.
One of my favorite actors.
He made an effort of like he'd come up and go, "Aren't you that guy in editing?" And said, "Hi, I'm Robin." It was just that kind of nice openness that was really great.
Great. It's the type of thing that keeps you probably in the business.
It
Like,
just it makes you feel good, especially
That and the
when you-
paycheck, likely.
Yeah,
I think.
that helps.
Remember watching Richard Attenborough watch the OJ chase with us in Chicago on a
right.
John Hughes
No
film,
way.
Wow.
Miracle on 34th Street.
And they were like, "Sir
Oh, my
Richard, you need to
gosh.
get back on set." And he's
just
like,
1 minute. Just 1 minute.
Wow. Hanging with the actors.
Jurassic Park,
That's
no
amazing.
way. All right, folks. Well, let's head into some predictions while we wrap up this show.
AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a new predictions thing?
It's the short one. There's
There's a short one because we're running low.
We're running low on time. Dave, what do you predict?
You know, a lot of my negative predictions of things not working out are slowly fading away.
Okay.
I think Joe and Sarah will move to California, and if there is a season 3, perhaps there's a new Silicon Valley type of thing happening with those guys, different from the HBO show.
Okay, sure.
Or maybe he just jumps onto the HBO show after this.
That would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
Lee Pace and some comedy.
Yeah.
I buy it.
And
I've edited that before.
Oh yeah.
He was in Wonder Falls.
Oh
Right,
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
right,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right. And then I don't know if Donna and Gordon are going to share their negatives. I think they have enough to worry about, so we may end the season with just wondering, you know what, these guys are going to be happier living a lie.
All right. Well, I'm going to make some really bold predictions and watch you guys' faces to see.
Right. Yes.
To see if I'm right.
I'm not a poker player.
Yeah, I am a poker player, so we'll see. Well, I wondered. You know, Sarah's got this past that we're really finding out about, and it really seems like she's got a lot of stuff to tackle herself, and she seems so focused on Joe that I'm wondering if she's really ultimately good for him. Like, it seems like she's been good for him in a lot of ways, but I think, I don't know, doesn't she have stuff to deal with? And just like telling him he's going to move away is like, it seems a little selfish to me. So I'm kind of wondering if he's really going to go to California. I'm kind of thinking not.
Uh-oh. Well, you're being bold.
Yeah, it's very bold. And I told you before that Donna's never telling Gordon. That's my bold
That's your production. Well, we'll see.
We've got 3
Good
episodes
poker
to find
faces.
out.
Good poker faces. I saw nothing over there.
Lots can happen in 3 episodes.
That's right.
Yeah,
As
it
we've
can.
seen, yeah.
Well, folks, thanks so much for watching the show. We really appreciate it. Really appreciate having both of you guys on the show.
you guys
Thanks
are
for
awesome.
coming out.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Kevin, where can people find you online?
Twitter is at Ross Films.
At Ross Films. John?
Twitter is John M. Vitale.
All right. And Dave?
Cool. Yeah, at Go Blue Dave. And if you're around tomorrow night, I'll have a murder mystery show at the Next Door Lounge, and tickets are still available. So come check it out.
Awesome. You can follow me on Twitter at Isaac Johnson and Instagram, the Isaac Johnson. I got like 10 more followers. I don't have 1,000 like Dave.
Oh,
But
well,
what are you gonna
can't all
do?
be Dave.
But I value each one of every one
I
of
do
you.
too.
I don't view you just as numbers.
Oh, well, I do both.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on, guys. We really
Thank you.
appreciate
Guys,
it.
no
And
problem.
we'll
Thanks
see
so
you
much.
all next week.
See you next week, regular time.
Yes.
All right.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.